Well, hello there, everyone. It's good to see you all once again. I think it's time for a little daily review. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, the day started off when I got up out of my bed, and after using the restroom, drinking some water, going back in, I remember researching the night before about how to have a more successful time practicing astral projection meditations because I wanted to see if I could have an out of body experience. So I basically listened to the Robert Monroe Gateway tape, the introduction, and then I went. I was listening to that with my headphones on, hoping that if I consciously followed the directions while still in a relaxed yet somewhat lucid state, I might be able to have a successful go at it. The only problem was I just went back to sleep again. Pretty anticlimactic, huh? Well, eventually I woke up again, and this time it was around, I'd say, like 10 to 10:30. So I got up and I decided to go on my phone to see if there was anything interesting to watch that caught my eye. Well, as it turns out, there was. The Valve Steam Deck has been shipped off to Digital Foundry, one of the tech review channels that I enjoy watching, and Richard Ledbetter was about to start talking about it. But I thought to myself, I want to have some breakfast while I'm watching this video. So you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to choose between either the marshmallow cereal, Lucky Charms, or the Honey Bunches of Oats cereal, Honey Bunches of Oats. As I went out, I greeted my sister, and my sister wanted to tell me all about this strange story she uncovered on YouTube, where this lady decided to have this thing she went through where her eggs were uh, inseminated in a way that was like clinical and, you know, not the traditional way. And apparently, when she was like filming like a selfie and like driving and talking to her kids, like the kid like asked why am I here, and she said like, well, I so you can exist, and they said, I miss my dark brothers and sisters, and she was like, what do you mean? And then he said, yeah, I miss them. I was really tall, much taller than you. And he was like, what? And then she said, and then the kid said, yeah, and I remember I was as big as a building, and like I was like on an asteroid or something. Now, you know, to any average person, that would sound like just a kid having a weird and big imagination. But what makes this case so weird and interesting is that apparently there was a lot of people in the YouTube comment section who were stating that when they went through the same process of having their kid, um, their kid stated a very similar story where it felt like they were yanked from being with a former life with their brothers and sisters, where they were traveling the cosmos on like comets or something, and now they were in these constrained human bodies. It was a very, very odd thing to say, and the fact that apparently a lot of people in the comment section were reporting that definitely was very eyebrow raising. Now, am I saying this is like, am I saying that when people go through this process of having children, um, as the child is being conceived, like some kind of extraterrestrial soul is like sucked from the sky and into this baby as they're being born? No, I mean, I'm not saying that, but I am saying that it's very odd that this strange phenomenon is was being shown to be a regular occurrence for a lot of people who've gone through this specific process. And yeah, I thought it was very fascinating. Me and my sister had a deeper conversation about that. I thought it was pretty interesting. Well, after we discussed that, I asked her, "Hey, I don't know whether to have Lucky Charms or Honey Bunches of Oats. What do you think I should have?" And she said, "You know what? Why not combine both?" So I was like, I've never done that ever before, but I guess I'll do it now. So I combined the Lucky Charms at the bottom with the Honey Bunches of Oats at the top with some low-fat milk, and I ate that, and it was surprisingly pretty good. The puffiness of the Lucky Charms mixed with the crispy thinness of the Honey Bunches of Oats was a surprisingly nice combo. It was like equal parts like puffy crunch and equal parts like thin crispy crunch. Very cool. As I was eating, I decided to finish the Digital Foundry video, and basically the conclusion I came to with the Steam machine is that, I know there's going to be two camps out there. There's going to be the camp that's going to say, this is a waste of money, this is a joke of a product. They're releasing like 1,000, they're oddly specific priced versions of like this console, both over 1,000, with the lowest tier model not even coming with a controller, and both having like 8 gigabytes of like VRAM or something like that. And the device is ultimately pretty much being close to but slightly less powerful than the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Now, people make the argument that it's dead on arrival and that the Steam machine would really only make sense if it was more powerful than the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, because it's not going to be that long until after the PlayStation 6 and the Xbox Helix comes out that's going to make the Steam machine look like a really bad deal in comparison, especially with the lack of controller for the entry-level box. I guess they assume you already have plenty of controllers if you want to get the system. But on top of that, it's very odd that releasing it now, when you have something like a PlayStation 5 Pro, where sure, they cranked up the price from $700 to $900, which that's ridiculous, but with the component shortage and storage prices being as ridiculous as they are, it's when you compare the deal you get with a PlayStation 5 Pro compared with the Steam machine, sure, you do have the walled garden approach of a PS5 Pro where you're pretty much stuck to the PlayStation ecosystem, and you got to pay for online if you want to play online with your buddies, and but and you don't have like mods or any of that. But you will get games like Grand Theft Auto 6 at launch on a pretty capable piece of kit, and there's plenty of excellent PlayStation 5 exclusives available on that platform, and PS4 exclusives for that matter, who have yet to be launched on other hardware. So, but at the end of the day, I feel like the audience for this type of device really is just people who they already are locked into the Steam ecosystem. They have a whole lot of Steam software in their backlog that they haven't touched yet, and they want a very slim, convenient, and attractive way of playing their software in the living room, through a compact form factor that is also very open source. And even though it does have a lot of console style amenities like the Steam OS, like its slim, compact form factor, just looks slightly taller than a GameCube. Um, it, it you know, I think you're really getting it just to have a device that is perfect for like people who are already in the Steam ecosystem and want a solid way of playing a lot of their software on the television in a compact console style form factor. Personally, though, I mean, if you're expecting to play more modern software on this thing, you're going to have a hard time. I feel like had the Steam machine with its current hardware spec launched 2 or even 3 years ago, it would have been a really awesome and compelling deal because the PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles were still relatively new at that point in time. And having an open source competitor like Valve on the scene that was competitively priced, which I actually did a little bit of research to ask. I asked Google, hey, if they released this thing before the hardware component shortage due to things like AI data centers eating up all of the RAM and resources, how much would it have cost? And apparently the price range was going to be between $600 to $700 before the insane hikes due to the less than ideal conditions with how much components cost right now. So you're ultimately they had to be forced to release these things at higher prices. Now, I asked, hey, why couldn't they subsidize with their Steam software sales? And apparently the reason was they did not want to become like a walled garden system. They didn't want to create this impression that like you needed to own Valve software or hardware in order to play Valve software. Ultimately, the reason why was because they wanted to still allow players to have complete and total agency without feeling like they were stuck in a console-style ecosystem like the PlayStation or the Xbox, which the reason they're able to get their devices down to a certain price point is because of their subsidies like game sales. They take a lot of revenue and profit from having their games only available on their service, which brings into question Xbox Helix. It's clear Microsoft is severely rethinking their strategy for how they publish their software. But that's a whole other can of worms. I don't really need to get into that. But all this is about the Steam machine. But yeah, overall, this is going to be a very compelling scene to see how successful this thing ends up being. I don't really have any interest for this. I mean, I love the idea of having a compact console style experience in a mini PC format that can, be somewhat neck and neck with modern consoles. I think that's a pretty interesting proposition, but the insane price tag for something that's slightly less powerful than the PS5 when you have the PS5 Pro, which is equivalent to RTX 4060, and it comes with a controller, 2 terabytes, and it's going to be able to play something like GTA 6, makes the overall deal with the Steam machine just seem less appealing overall. But maybe the audience is just for people who really enjoy just having an open source style platform in a console style form factor. The cool thing, though, is that it will the Steam OS that is going to be shipping with the Steam machine is also going to be available with every single PC that will run Steam itself. So you don't even need to own the Steam machine to run the new Steam OS. You could just get the most powerful PC components you possibly can and just play your games that way. With a nice console-style OS at your fingertips, which is pretty awesome. So overall, I don't know. I feel like people could easily build a similar spec PC for less. I guess the whole appeal is just it looks cool. It looks neat, but that's about it. It's got a cool controller, but again, you have to pay extra for that. I don't really know who the market is for this. Maybe just people who enjoy uh, the idea of having a PC console hybrid. But if that's the case, I'm sure something like the Xbox Helix console will offer substantially better experience because it's going to have much more modern architecture in it than the Steam machine. I mean, personally, in my opinion, I feel like if the price was going to be ridiculous anyways, Valve really should have just canceled plans for the current Steam machine and rebuilt it from the ground up with the more modern expectations in mind. So when the PlayStation 6 and the Xbox Helix releases, the Valve is more prepared long term for their hardware to match neck and neck with what more modern systems are capable of. Yeah, but those are my thoughts on the Steam machine. I think it's kind of a shame that it came out at this point in time. Had the Steam machine come out like 2 or 3 years ago, I think it would have been a really awesome proposition for people who want a open source console style platform to play their games on that goes up to toe with what PlayStation and Microsoft are offering. But instead, we get a device that seems little too late, that is a bit dated in its hardware configuration, that has an outrageous price tag, with the cheapest model not even coming with a controller, and ridiculously low storage. I don't really know what they were thinking, but people keep on saying, well, because it's an open source platform made by Valve, it's going to sell like hotcakes. Maybe so. Apparently, the Steam Deck is still doing extremely well even after its price hike. So I guess there's still a market out there, a really niche but excitable market for Valve's hardware. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, here's what I think is going to happen. Like, when it first launches, like, the hardcore Steam Valve fanatics are going to lap this up and buy it immediately. But then after the first wave, and maybe even second wave, for the novelty of a Valve console box, most people will kind of realize, the value proposition here isn't really that solid. And I mean, maybe the sales will start dipping, or maybe not. Maybe it'll just sell like hotcakes, like the Steam Deck. But I don't know. Interesting to see how that's going to play out. Anywho, I guess that's all I got to say about that. Moving on. So after absorbing all that information, which was quite a lot, I decided to go into deeper research on my whole. My mom and my sister decided to go off to the fabric store, and then I decided to do a bit of deeper research on my Griffles thing, because I wanted to understand, wait, how come on box 4 they say it's okay, but then in I think box 7 they say it's not okay to donate twice a week. And that did have me concerned for my my health. But at the same time, I was wondering, why did they say yes on that? So I took out Claude, and I asked Claude, hey, why does it say that? And Claude basically says, generally, it would appear that your healthcare physician thought it was okay for you to donate, but at the donating at that high of a frequency, for whatever reason, they didn't want to put a definitive answer on. Maybe because they didn't have any blood work done yet, so they didn't want to say something without having full hard knowledge. But now that you do have your blood work, maybe getting checked on again, and then asking about the blood work and seeing if you could get a official confirmation on a second trip or go around would be a good thing to do. So in the very near term future, I would say, I want to say tomorrow, but I'm not 100% sure because there's a few things that are going on tomorrow that will be that I'll be involved with. Like I may be going on a breakfast outing with my mom and my middle sister, and I may be going to see Toy Story 5 in the cinema. So I don't know if this is going to be like something I'm going to do, mostly because the location is quite a ways away from where I'm at, and I don't know if I have that kind of mental energy to drive there and, you know, pick up the forms and then drive back. I mean, but yeah, I guess if I really want to do it, I'll do it. But anywho, yeah, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to grab a new, what do you call that? General medical history assessment. And yeah, then I'm going to go ahead and wait for my official doctor's appointment at July 1st so I can get answers and see what's going on with my body. Because, you know, at the end of the day, health is the number one priority, and if you don't take care of your health, then you're not going to be in a good position later in life. So, yeah. Okay, so anywho, after doing all that, I decided to do a lot of deep research with, for whatever reason, I got really compelled to ask, like, Grok and then, like, Claude questions about, like, wait a minute. So there was that Fable 5 AI that was banned by the U.S. government. What score did it get on humanity's last exam? And apparently it got a score of 65%. And apparently the world's most intelligent humans, PhD level humans, have all generally scored a 65% on humanity's last exam, which means what was the most intelligent AI system at the time before it was canned was neck and neck with the world's most intelligent humans before being shut down by the US government. So that's very interesting. I'm very, and it made me ask, okay, so if we're so close to what seems to be like a new breakthrough in AI technology, how long do you think it would be before we would have something like artificial general intelligence and then artificial super intelligence? And apparently, Claude estimates sometime next year we'll have AGI, artificial general intelligence, and then sometime between 2027 to 2030 we may have artificial super intelligence, which is basically intelligence so insanely smart that it could pretty much outclass any human on the face of planet Earth and get a 100% on humanity's last exam, which I think is what all these AI companies are working hardcore towards. They want the most intelligent, language model system they possibly can muster up, because it means more dollars for them. It means, they get a strict technological lead amongst other adversaries or people that are, working against them. So, yeah, that's what's going on with that. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how this is coming along. Of course, there's some safety concerns, like if the AI super intelligence, it becomes difficult to manage, or maybe its goals are misaligned with human goals, what would that end up looking like? It's going to be really interesting to see what life's going to be like, is going to be like in the next like 5 or 10 years, because one thing's for sure, it's going to be nothing like life has been like for the past like 80 years. It's going to be insane. Hopefully a good insane, not a bad insane. But based on how things have been going with like data centers and eating up all of the resources for like consumer grade technology, and you know uh, potentially getting rid of a lot of jobs and displacing a lot of workers. There's definitely a lot of you know things happening that are causing this technology to, I suppose you could say, be called into question for sure. Well, anyways, my mom and sister had arrived after my deep research session. I greeted them. They greeted me. They told me about their search for fabric that they were looking into. And then my mom wanted me to take pictures of different fabrics they bought, and then ask Google's Gemini about how good these are, like, or what would be the price if you bought these fully knitted and fully wrapped over pillows. Apparently, they would be much more than if you simply just bought the fabric and knitted them yourself, which is what my sister's doing. So that's pretty awesome. Well, after that fun bit of investigating, um, I decided to do a bit of Robert Monroe um, meditation on the ground laying down. I was trying to go for some kind of an out of body experience while listening to binaural beats. Um, and ultimately, my report for this specific session was that I was trying to get into a full on relax mode. But the problem was that I was having a difficult time getting to that point, because my like back, specifically my lower back, was constantly reminding me, like snapping me out of like my relaxed state, because I was like, ooh, that bottom back's giving me a hard time. But um, I did at the very least have some sense of going into a dream state. I was thinking of things, and then those things were starting to slightly form into like, silhouetted images in my head, and like certain thoughts like of events happening started to feel like I was kind of starting to experience them. And then I would immediately be snapped back into just darkness behind my closed eyes and my back. So, I had what I would call some kind of an interesting unlock of an experience, but it could have been a lot better. I'm sure if I was in a state where I was far more relaxed, my back wasn't giving me any issues, and I could just get into a more deeper state of meditation, I may have experienced something a bit more profound or more visceral. But as it stands, it was more like a ghost or hint of something more profound, but nothing super duper definitive. Well, anyways, my mom left for work, and I got up. I decided to start crushing cans. As I was crushing cans, I was listening to a Ross Coldhart Q&A where he was talking about UFO whistleblower protections. He was talking about how you could see like trumping the president's disclosure if like he really wanted to leave his mark on history. But the problem is, like, the current way things are being handled doesn't lead a lot of hope for that. And ultimately, he is a bit disappointed that things seem to be stalling, but there is attempts at forming disclosure, but it's moving really slow. So, yeah. After I was done listening to that, and I was in the middle of crushing cans and putting them away in recycling, a guy from Amazon gave me a package. I looked at this package, I ripped it open, I was like, what is this? At first I thought it was my 4K copy of Finding Nemo. I was like, ooh, this is exciting, but it wasn't. Instead, it was the screw-on thing you put in the buzzsaw to lock in your rubber stopper for the saw blade. So I opened it. I took one of the little circular screw things, tabs out. I got out the buzzsaw and I put it in there to see if it would fit, and it did not. It was just like 2 millimeters too small. So I took a picture of it, it's sitting in the opening. I sent it to Gemini. I asked, hey, yo, this didn't work. Yeah, we went through this long time calculating, and it turns out that it's just not fitting. And then stated that it would appear that I was 2 millimeters off, and a 20 millimeter one would be more recommended. So I went on Amazon. I ordered a variety pack that was between 18 millimeters to 22 millimeters for like 5 for each one. That was about like $9.24. And I asked for a refund of the previous one. It gave me a location to drop off the package. Luckily, I didn't need to like repackage it in any, paper or anything. So that was nice. I let my sister and her family friend know that I'd be running off to drop that off. So I went in my car and I was listening to a new Eyes on Cinema video about different witnesses of the Roswell incident, talking about what they experienced with the unique metal alloy that you crumpled it up and then it reformed it back into its original shape, and how they saw that there were some bodies next to the craft in the desert and all that. It's pretty interesting stuff. Eventually, I arrived at the location, the UPS. I dropped off the package, and then I decided to go into the grocery store since it was close by. And I was like, I think I've been like having cabin fever. I've been doing all this AI research, all this steam machine research at the house, and I feel kind of mentally fatigued from all this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go peruse the store and just see if there's anything that catches my eye. I went around, and ultimately there was one thing that caught my eye, and that was this frozen ball of pizza dough with simple ingredients. And I thought to myself, I've made pizza before and it was a lot of fun, but I'm wondering if I made my own pizza with this particular dough, how that would turn out. And what really got me was the simplistic instructions on the packaging that made me think, oh, this would be a lot of fun to do. So I grabbed it. I was like, wait a minute, we don't have any pepperoni or mozzarella at home. So I grabbed the cheapest pepperoni and mozzarella I could find. I bought it. It was around like $6.38 for the whole thing. Luckily, we have like tomato sauce and like other seasonings back at home, so I didn't have to worry about buying everything. It would be more expensive if that was the case. Drove back. I asked Google how much. How do I defrost this rock hard dough? And it stated that it needed to be in the refrigerator 12 to 24 hours before being, stretched and cooked. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do that. So I put it in the fridge. Currently, it's defrosting right now. And tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be making some homemade pizza and see how it ends up turning out. It's going to be exciting. So, yeah, after making that, or putting everything away, eating a bit of pepperoni and some mozzarella, and then, it was like having pizza without the crust, pretty good, and the sauce. I remember that everything was away, and I decided, what happened after that? Oh, I finished crushing the cans. My mom came back from some work. I greeted her, told her about what happened with the whole, screwing for the saw drill and having to replace it and all that stuff. And then afterwards, once the cans were done, I decided to go into my room, and I was trying to find something interesting to watch. I was like going through YouTube like a television channels, just trying to find something that would capture my eye. Ultimately, I found this video by this guy. I don't remember his channel alias, sorry, but I think it was called like finding out who killed Pixar's golden era. And it was like this really geeky, nerdy guy who was like talking about why Pixar is not really making the big, um, you know, uh, hits like they used to. And he was going through a list of like suspects, like Bob Iger and you know um, John Lasseter and um, Toy Story 3 being widely considered the last of the golden era, and all this other information. It was a lot. Before I started it, though, I wanted to make something sweet because honestly, I wanted to get something sweet at the grocery store, but I didn't want to overspend any money, and nothing really looked good to me anyways. I was thinking about maybe getting some AMC labeled popcorn, but then I thought, wait, we already have popcorn at home. I could just get some ghee and some popcorn kernels and make some really good popcorn. And I was seeing some Eggos, and I was like, I can make better waffles at home too. So I decided to make some waffles for dinner, I suppose. Our family friend was off to the grocery store just to peruse, and they asked me if I wanted or need anything. And I said, well, a bit of syrup and some whipped cream would be nice. And they said, sure, gotcha. So they went to get that. And as they were going off to get that, I went ahead and I found a recipe online. It was from the Food Network. It was, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name right now. I think it was um, like Epic Waffles or Truly Astounding Waffles or some kind of long name. I don't know why I'm blinking out on it right now. It was like the presentation with this like lady who said, in order to find the best deals, I usually go up to the bartenders or the bellhop boys, and they tell me where to go. And then she went up and found this random guy who looked like completely caught off guard, like, oh, I didn't know it was gonna be on TV. And then he said, yeah, there's this place called Frankenstein's. Here it's pretty good. There's and then I went to Frankenstein's. And then she goes off to this Frankenstein's. And she said, what makes this place interesting is that the owner has gotten a hodgepodge and pastiche of different furniture and put it all together in a unique way. And then she was in there like, yeah, this is a cool place. Look at this menu. I'm going to get the waffles. So she got the waffles, and she's like, oh my gosh, these waffles are amazing. So I was like, ooh, I got to try those waffles. So I followed the recipe beat for beat. Flour, cornstarch, baking soda, baking powder, milk, oil, eggs, sugar, vanilla extract, salt, the whole 9 yards. Mix it all together. I was a bit too eager though. I put the batter in the waffle iron that was preheated at the lowest heat, and then I looked at the instructions. It turns out that you're actually supposed to wait 30 minutes before you cook the waffle batter. So I did not wait that long. I just immediately jumped to it. So I decided to wait for a good 25 minutes for the rest of the waffles to cook. Apparently the reason why is because it gives time for the water to hydrate the flour and the cornstarch, thus leading to a more crispier waffle on the outside and a fluffier waffle on the inside. So I did that, and I cooked the other waffles for my family friend, my sister, and my mom. My mom split the waffle with me because I had the experimental waffle that was all chewy and not perfect at the start, but the next waffle that my mom said, we'll split that one. So because I know you wanted the good one, and I was like, oh, thank you. So yeah, put butter on all of them, put syrup on all of them, put whipped cream on all of them, and they were fantastic. They were really good waffles. That lady definitely, that bellhop boy in the video by the Food Network really knew what he was saying, and I guess, and so did the lady. So pretty great. Yeah, I wish I remembered the name of the waffles. It was pretty funny. But anyways, yeah. So after that, I decided to brew a cup of coffee, have that with the waffle that I split with my mom, and then I went in my room and I watched this. I continued watching that Pixar video. A lot of the things I have talked about with Pixar, like he goes through, I really don't want to go any deeper than like I already have. I'd feel like a broken record. Um, the only thing I'm gonna say is that apparently he believes what killed Pixar was Toy Story 3 and Pixar's over reliance on just making safe sequels that make them a lot of money, instead of sticking with profound and original concepts and ideas that challenge like people's expectations. You know, making sequels was an exception rather than the rule, and that's no longer the case. You know, we've had like probably 7 sequels since Toy Story 3, and including now Toy Story 5. So yeah, doesn't seem like that gravy train's gonna slow down anytime soon. All right, well, after watching that, one of my favorite YouTube channels lately posted a new video that was recounting an alien abduction story, and I was like, ooh, I want to watch this, but I wanted to have something to snack on while I was watching it. So I decided to make some popcorn. I got some ghee. I got some yellow popcorn kernels, and I just got started making this. My sister was feeling in a snacking mood too, so she cut up a pineapple and yeah, cut that into slices, and even cut some banana and mixed, put them in 3 separate bowls for her, me, and my mom. So pretty cool. Popped the popcorn. It was very good. It was like first you have to heat up the oil with the 3 kernels. Once the 3 kernels pop, you throw the rest of the kernels in there. Of course, it's like 1/4 a cup of ghee and then 1/2 a cup of popcorn kernels. And then you take it off the fire. You shake it around for like 30 seconds. And while it's shaking around for 30 seconds, I have extra ghee being warmed up in the microwave. And then once that's done, you put it back on the heat. So the heat's now on an even playing field. So not one part of the kernels is going to get overcooked or burned. And then they all pop perfectly. And it's pretty magical, honestly. And then you have to immediately, once the last kernel pops, take it out off the pan because it's going to have a lot of steam. If you don't do this where you immediately transfer it into a separate bowl, then the popcorn is going to get really chewy because of the steam surrounding it. And chewy popcorn is the worst. You want nice, crispy, satisfying, crunchy popcorn. That's what you want. And then, of course, to finish it off, you sprinkle a bit of salt, pour the ghee, extra ghee, evenly throughout in a crisscross fashion, up and then to the sides. And, you know, mix it with your hand until it's all evenly coated with the right amount of salt and ghee. And then you have some fantastic popcorn, like very clean tasting. Doesn't taste like you're putting like some gross stuff inside your body. Like, I feel like when I eat microwave popcorn, I feel gross afterwards. Like, ugh, that was so gross. But when I eat, you know, freshly made ghee popcorn, like it tastes much cleaner and tastes much better too. So that's great. So yeah, after making that, my mom and my sister want to watch something, so we went in the living room and we watched this new episode of the Y-Files covering Canada's most famous UFO case, where a man is like going off in the woods. He's looking for silver and gold, but then he sees these strange cigar-shaped things that arrive from the sky, and one of them is over the lake, and the other one is over the ground. And the one over the ground forms from cigar-shaped craft into a UFO disc-shaped craft, and it goes from being blindingly like bright to like looking like metal cooling down, kind of like if you've ever seen a blacksmith work and he takes metal that's from the fire and taking it out and like hitting it, and it goes from like super like bright red down to like regular metal color. That's pretty much how it was described. And he's looking at it, he decides to draw recreate the UFO as best as he possibly can from the from drawing it on a piece of paper, because he was like interested in what the heck is this thing. And he decides to go up and inspect it with a closer look, and apparently there was a hum coming from it that vibrated his like whole body, something you didn't hear but you felt. And then he was like looking at the bottom, like there were no wheels, there was no tripod, and it was perfectly like carved out, like it didn't look like there were any obvious like rivets or anything, like it looked really smooth. And like the thing opened, and there was like this blinding like bluish purplish like light that he saw, and he decided to look in, and it looked completely sterile in there, like there was nothing inside the machine. And he heard, but it did smell like sulfur, and he remember hearing voices that he didn't understand in his head. And he felt like he needed to leave, so he started going off. But then like he saw, like apparently there was a grate on the machine that that blew at him and burned his shirt, and he had to take his shirt off and like kick it down so it wouldn't cook him. And then he saw the machine just straight up like go up without any sound and then immediately launch off into the air. And then he walked away from the whole experience. He was stopped by a policeman, and he told him his story, and the policeman just left. And then apparently had these he arrived home to his wife and kid, and apparently he felt like he needed to go to the doctor. He lost 20 pounds in like 1 week somehow. He felt pretty ill from the whole experience, as if he got some form of radiation poisoning. And he felt the need to go to a Mayo Clinic. It was a pretty crazy experience. And he tried to get the help from like different people who could inspect the whole situation, and they checked it out. When they found the landing area, there were some radioactive like isotopes left behind. So that like was really interesting. And apparently, he stated he found some silver in that area, but later on, experts believe that he placed that silver there just to add to the story. But the fact still stands. He was found with burns in his chest that day. He did meet a police officer, told him what was going on, and he did feel the need to spend exorbitant amounts of money to get diagnosed by a Mayo Clinic for something he believed was, giving him issues. He drew the thing. He's got that. And on top of that, he did lose 20 pounds in a week. Apparently, that was verified by his family. So this is one of those UFO cases where, sure, there's some things you can nitpick about it, like him finding silver after like they found the landing spot, and it seemingly like it was placed there, or like a similar burn mark showing up a few months later. After the initial burn was on his shirt and all. But even so, the fact that those other things happened and had verified like witnesses who can testify for those things happening to him to be true, like him getting like some form of radiation sickness, like him getting those burns on his chest, like him going to these professional clinics and doctors who had difficulty diagnosing him, definitely adds a lot of credibility to this case. Now, is it aliens? I don't know. I mean, maybe. Apparently, the way the guy described it, he believed it was some form of advanced like technology from the United States based on like how it looked to him. But we will never know. All we have is his word and the things that happened to him that other people can testify did really happen to him. So overall, I find this a really compelling case, and I thought I was like glued to the screen the whole time because, like, I feel like this kind of phenomenon, this kind of event, that what makes it so interesting to me is that there are so many stories out there that feel so like unresolved, that don't have a proper conclusion, and even the best experts have a difficult time like explaining them away. And those are the ones that I always find so interesting. Stuff like the Virginia case, stuff like Roswell, stuff like this case. There's just so many interesting threads to point at and go like, what's this? What does that mean? That's so interesting. Doesn't mean you should just fall for this whole thing like hook, line, and sinker. No, that's not what it means. But what it does mean is that you should always like be open to hearing like people's stories, and then hearing other stories, cross-referencing, seeing what is consistent, what is not consistent, and coming to your own conclusions instead of just openly hook, line, sinker, taking what both sides have to say. Always just come to your own conclusions, because the truth is the truth, and you can't, no matter how you stretch it or look at it, it's always going to be the truth. So yeah. And what that truth is for this case, well, we don't really know, but it's interesting for sure. But anyways, after that, at the end, I was singing the Y-Files song, like singing along to it, because it seemed pretty fun to me. And then I said goodnight to my mom. I said goodnight to my sister. I took my vitamins. I brushed my teeth. I took out the trash because tomorrow's trash day. And then I went in here and I was reviewing what I watched, but before I decided to start making the video so I could have a refresher of what I was going to say. And yeah, that's pretty much the day. So yeah, that's going to do it for now. Thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Have a good one, everybody, and bye-bye.